Sarah, welcome to my happy place. Thank you for being
Toby,
here.
I've been so excited to come to your happy place.
Do
What
you
a
like what
joy
I've
it
done
is
with
to
it?
be here. Yeah, yeah, love that. What is your happy
Probably more
place?
leopard print rugs than you were imagining, but
Yes, the chandeliers are a really nice touch. Very gaudy. I like it.
so would you describe yourself as a happy person?
Yes, I think so. And it's taken a bit of effort to be able to say that. I think that there is a default of, yeah, I'm all right, or yeah, I'm okay, but actually making a choice to 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 be happy
Oh, it's
is
a
something
choice.
you I think it's a choice. I think you actually have to choose to want to be happy, and the more you say that you are, the more that you actually are. um
I
so
think
yes,
that
I'd say I
certainly
was.
is true in a great many situations. The choice, there's always a knee-jerk reaction, and so often a knee-jerk reaction can be a negative one because being negative is far easier than being positive, right?
Yeah, I think that there's a time in your life where you have a childhood innocence. Let's talk like primary school level. Like, you go through primary school, you don't care if you fall over, you don't care if you make a tit in front of your peers, particularly. But then there comes an age, I think it's just before you go to secondary school, where you start caring what other people think. And I think that's when you almost introvert yourself into a not wanting to show enthusiasm for things you might previously have shown enthusiasm for. And then I came to a realization then in my mid 20s where I was like, well, okay, if I want to actually be happy, then I probably have to start showing enthusiasm for things again and almost revert back to that childlike state.
That's really
Maybe.
interesting because when we don't often, as adults, talk about things like joy and happiness, they
No.
are sometimes associated with a childlike, as you say, states. But
Yeah.
actually, this is what we live for, isn't it? Trying to achieve happiness. So it confuses me why we don't discuss it more and try and work out more what it is that makes us feel happy.
Exactly. And I think it is something that you have to make a real valid choice to say, I want to find out what that is, and I want to go and do it. And I want to live and breathe it every day. And I don't want to, be fine. I don't want to be all right. I don't want to, default to that sort of nature of being, because life, as the old saying goes, is far too short, but also it's far too long to spend it in this weird hybridy, not quite happy, not quite sad, kind of just plodding along. Like,
Yeah,
the seasons come and go, and you need to make the most of it while you can.
the drab middle ground of being okay.
Yeah, who wants that? That's not fun.
So you're obviously a well-known figure within our industry, but let's just imagine for a moment that there are some people listening to this who don't know who Sarah Hood is. So I would like to throw a few quick-fire questions at you to
Go.
help our listeners just understand a little bit more about what makes you tick and what brings you joy in what I
Yes.
like to call quick-fire joy.
Ah,
So
quick fire joy.
what is your happy song?
My happy song. Oh, that's really easy. Basically, all of Take That's back catalogue. Um, but if we were to pick one, I would choose Shine. It's a Billy
And
basic, but it's always a good one.
it comes on and it brings joy to your heart.
Brings joy to my soul. Yeah.
What is your happy food?
Oh, my mum's lasagna. Best ever. And I know everyone's mum's got the best lasagna, but mine actually does, and it has been certified by me. So, yeah,
I,
my mum's lasagna.
my mum has not got the best lasagna. And
Oh,
I
don't
only
tell
say
her
that
that.
in the knowledge that
Jesus
she'll never listen
Christ.
to this. She makes it out of sausages. And I think that's a very controversial choice.
It's okay.
Um,
I phoned the police. They're on their way.
and they're not whole sausages. You don't cut into the lasagna and have a whole banger on your plate. That would just be weird. But
Okay.
she deskins the sausage and then uses the ground up sausage instead of beef mince, which I think
Okay.
is, I don't think that would go down well in Napoli, put it that way.
No, they'd kick off a stink. But I've made pasta sauces doing that, but not a lasagna. And
No.
actually, the thought has just come to my mind that if you did just bake sausages with like a layer of gravy, layer of mash, layer of sausages, you could almost make like a sausage and mash lasagna. And actually, that might be epic.
A sausage and mash lasagna is absolutely just, that is a creation that should have happened sooner. And I can't believe it's just happened on this podcast.
Jamie Oliver, get in touch. Like, I'm here.
And my last one, what is your happy waste of time? What is one thing you do that is completely unproductive, but it brings you joy?
Oh, there are so many things. I like watching the same films and TV shows over and over again, even though I know exactly what's going to happen. And I have seasonal favorites. So in the run up to Christmas, I will always rewatch Parks and Rec,
Oh,
and I've timed it perfectly to almost get like it finished just before Boxing Day. And then like there's the Christmas limbo period, and I'll usually rewatch, your classic Bridget Jones 1, 2, 3, and now 4, Notting Hills, all of those sorts of films. I just watch them over and over again. I'm not interested in new things particularly. If Netflix bring out something new, it takes me 6 months to watch it.
you had to wait until it becomes nostalgic in order
Yeah, I have to wait for it
enjoy
to
it.
not be talked about anymore so that I can come to a morning meeting. Oh my God, I watched this thing on Netflix last night. You probably watched it 6 months ago. But that's like a sort of a comfort blanket for
Yeah.
me. It's just watching those same things over and over again. And
Okay.
it's just easy.
So, got to know a little bit about you. And I like to, at this point, jump to the big question, which is for Sarah Hood, in the world of Sarah Hood, what does happiness look like to you?
Okay, so I think, and I'm not going to try and be too philosophical because I'm not a
No,
qualified psychotherapist,
it had to be.
but I
So
think,
what is it for you? What is happiness? What are we all trying to achieve here? Or what are you trying to achieve? What does it look like?
I just think it's making the best of every day and finding something good in every day. Ultimately, we stick to our routines Monday to Friday, sometimes Saturdays, we go to work, then we have our weekends, and then we have our time at home, and then we have our time where we have to do boring stuff like bills and life admin and all that sort of crap. But finding something joyful in every day, even though if it's really small, or having something constantly to look forward to. And I think I alluded to it earlier, you make a choice to do that. And I think ultimately happiness comes from contentment, and contentment comes from acceptance. You can accept your life as it is. You can always push yourself further and make your life 1% better every day, or whatever the expression is. But I really buy into that, just doing something small every day that brings you a bit of joy, and actually just making a note that if you get towards 5 o'clock and you've not found something joyful yet, to make sure you do. And every morning meeting we start by saying something positive that happened yesterday, and it's something I'm trying to encourage my team, which comprises of two baby infant 18 and 20-year-olds who are still not quite out of that secondary school everyone's judging me phase, and I want them to learn to find joy in small things.
I like the I like the concept that joy should be planned.
Yeah,
I
100%
think
it
that
should.
a lot of us rely on circumstance and chance. Whether we stumble upon joy and happiness in our everyday lives, we stumble through the working day, then we stumble home, then we stumble onto the sofa for a few hours, and then we stumble to bed. And if joy happens to fall in our path on the way, then great. But I love that you said that you actually, coming up with a few things each day to actually put in your path to make
Yeah,
sure that you find happiness and joy in your days and not leaving it to chance.
yeah,
Plan joy.
plan joy and find something joyful that you can then challenge yourself to find more joy with. So, as an example, when I turned 30 last year, I'd kind of achieved the things I wanted to achieve in many ways, but not all of the ways. Like, I hadn't bumped into Hugh Grant in Notting Hill and spilt orange juice all over him yet. That's still to come. But other than that, I bought my house. I'd got a good job. I was, happy and secure in many ways. So I sort of said, what am I going to do next? And you could either
Yeah.
spiral into a complete crisis about that, which many people do, and I completely get it. Or you can sort of say, okay, well, I'll just start saying yes to things and see what happens. And so I, every year, am absolutely slapped in the face with what feels like a giant white fish with some seasonal depression. So every time the clocks go back, I just think, oh shit, my
Yeah.
life is over. I'm just going to hibernate. The default is to hibernate, to veg until the spring. But I said, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say yes to doing a half marathon in March, and I can't run. So that will mean I have to get out of the house, and I'll have to go and learn to run. And that will be all through the winter. I'll just have to go outside whether I like it or not. So I did, and in doing that, being outside brings me an immense sense of joy anyway. Just by literally going out and breathing in some fresh air immediately makes everyone feel better. But going out and like doing something that you could just see yourself getting better at through that time was immensely helpful.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think, would it be fair for me to say that I'm no gym rat? And are you
Really?
are you a gym rat? Do you love going to the gym?
No, my meathead days
Yeah.
are off grid at the moment. They might be in my future somewhere. I feel it's unlikely, but I
So
don't think so.
I find motivating myself to exercise difficult. Yet we all know that there is apparently a clearly visible path between regular exercise and increased happiness and well-being. So when you started training for your half marathon, you said you quite like being outdoors. Did the exercise bring you joy? And it's
It-
fine to say no.
Sometimes, no. Sometimes I really bloody hated it because, it hurts and it sometimes rains and it was cold. And, there were many times like, oh God, I really don't want to go. But then you never regret going. Once
Mm.
you've been and you're back, and then you can put your tea on and you can take your trainers off, and you just think, okay, well, at least I've done it.
So
At
what
least
kept
I've
you
done
motivated?
something. The threat of failure at a half marathon in front of other people, frankly. And I kept it secret for a long time that I was doing it. I'd signed up to do it in October, and I thought this could be a good opportunity to raise some money, but I kept it secret whilst I was still at the can't run for more than 2 minutes at a time while getting out of breath phase. And then I managed to run for 5 whole minutes without stopping mid-January, and I thought now's the time to tell people. Half marathon, easy. Completed it already, practically. Um, so
It's
I
just a
then
series of 5 minutes strung together, right?
lots and lots and lots of 5 minutes strung together. And I thought, okay, I need to tell people that I'm doing this. I'm going to raise some money for breast cancer now in memory of Sarah Edmondson for Women in the State Agency. And I thought, how am I going to do that? Am I just going to post it on LinkedIn and hope some people throw some money at me? Or am I going to make it a bit more fun? And again, it's that saying yes to making a fool of yourself that I really wanted to do. So I recreated that bit in Bridget Jones where she runs after Mark Darcy in the snow in her pants. And thus my fundraising was born.
Thus the legend began.
The legend began. It's the thing.
And that really blew up. And I mean, you've completely mastered the art there. But the idea of making a fool of yourself on camera is not one that's new to me. And
No,
and you're absolutely right, because we say it flippantly, but that's the whole point. Is you didn't make a fool of yourself. You didn't make a fool of yourself. You earned a huge amount of respect. You got a lot of promotional publicity for your fundraising, and it was a huge success. And you're right. It's saying yes to those crazy ideas that pop into your head, which can so easily be rejected and suppressed. And actually,
so easy.
What's the harm in giving it a go, right?
Well, quite. And it was one of those things as well. Throughout every woman's entire life, right, we felt unconscious about our bodies. And, there has been a process to make peace with that, which again has been part of this whole happiness building piece that I've been doing throughout my 20s. And that was like the point finale for me of being, okay, I have fully accepted what my body looks like. I'm going to post my ass on LinkedIn. Why not?
Yeah.
And so having that sort of level of peace with myself was really like just sort of uplifting.
Absolutely.
Aside from anything else.
That is something that will be admired by many, and is, once you've achieved it, that lack of self-consciousness, especially on camera, it feels no biggie. You'd probably do it again. But
did.
People who haven't but you probably do it again.
I will.
People who haven't done it, it feels like the highest mountain to climb to drop that self-consciousness and not worry about what other people think of you, essentially.
Yeah.
Looking back on it now, what do you think you derived the most satisfaction from? Was it achieving
Oh,
a physical achievement of completing a half marathon? Was it the fundraising? Or was it putting yourself out there in a way that you previously never thought you could?
oh wow, that's a really good question. I
Thank
have no,
you.
I have no desire to do another one. I feel like
Yeah.
that was a one trick wonder event. I mean, I say this, who knows what will happen, but at the moment my toenails are still recovering, so we'll see. I feel like the fundraising was the real spur to carry on, because I felt like I really can't let these very kind and generous people down now, because I've said I'm going to do it. There is also sheer bloody mindedness that meant I was always going to do it. But I just think that the sense of saying, okay, well, you've never done this, and from a complete amateur, you just went and did it, that's the real satisfaction. It's sort of evidence that I can probably do anything I want if I decide to do it and give it some attention. And I didn't train really, really, really hard for it. I didn't have like a plan. I didn't have a PT. I just winged it. And there's a certain level of joy in that, to all of the, the proper runners that were there, who were lapping me, I grant you, just being like, well, I'm still doing it. Doesn't matter that you're super speedy. I'm just going to do it anyway.
And there's something in there about fighting your own battle and being your own competition, isn't there? There's no point in comparing yourself to the person who sprints over the finishing line in less than half an hour. That's not the race that you're running. So you need to know your own goals and your own targets, and compete against yourself. But it's interesting you gave that answer, because it's not the one that I thought you were going to give. Because when we first started talking about that subject, your response to the sort of physical exercise element of it was the most lukewarm, compared to talking about the social media side of it, the fundraising side of it. But it's interesting that it's actually, when it comes down to it, the exercise and the achievement that really gave you that satisfaction.
I did the thing, and I did it in a fun way, and I compel everyone to try and do something similar.
Absolutely. I think it's such a good example, because I think if we were building a toolkit to help other people discover joy in a certain way, it ticks so many of the boxes, because you've got exercise in there, you've got charity and fundraising in there, doing good for other people, you've got approaching it in a fun way, and then obviously you've got the breaking down other kind of barriers in terms of the way you put yourself out there. So I think there's an awful lot that other people can take from that. Whilst it was something that I'm sure you were very proud of, I think other people have sat up and taken notice of it. But I think, well done.
Thanks. Now I need to find something else to do that's a bit joyful, because that's been and done. I mean, I'll carry on running for sure, because that the outside element is just, and the being outside and the actual endorphins when you finish are still good for the soul. But I'm not sure that a half marathon is on the sights again, but you never know. And that's again a thing, like just never saying never to things, and never saying no completely, I think, is another good.
Presumably a few years ago, the Sarah Hood of, let's say, 2022 would have found it quite hard to believe that Sarah Hood of 2025 was doing what she did.
Oh, I'd have laughed in your face, and probably would have even said 6 months ago, I would have laughed in your face. Pre actually saying yes to it, I would have said absolutely not. But then you say yes to it, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, fine.
So now imagine what the Sarah Hood of 2028 is going to be doing.
Well,
and this is the thing, you should never write off your future self. You should give them the best chance possible. Now, look, I like to throw what I call a happy fact at people, and I normally do it very close to the start. And it's a measure of just how much you have to offer that we're only just getting to it. And actually, this isn't a very happy fact, but I'd like to get your response to it. So this comes from an American medical journal, Would you believe it? Depression is now the world's leading cause of disability, affecting about 280 million people globally. And this is a quote from that journal. The World Health Organization estimates that over 280 million people suffer from depressive symptoms. It's the leading cause of disability, impairing individuals' ability to function in daily life, work, and social interactions. I'm agog at that. The leading global cause of disability is depression.
I think I can sadly believe it. I wouldn't have guessed it if you'd asked me the flat question, what is the leading cause of disability? But I probably wouldn't have guessed it. But actually, now that you say it, I think actually, very sadly, that is probably true. And I have a small theory on this. And the generations before us, the boomers, my parents and grandparents, will say that we've never had it easier. But actually, I think that's completely opposite. And I feel like the internet and social media has a huge amount to play in that, but also our access to information is unbounded in a way it hasn't been before. It's completely unrestricted, and I'm not sure our brains are built to process that much information that quick. And we scroll, we doom scroll, we're reverting from one thing to another. We have multiple screens on our desks. We watch TV and have our phone in our hand at the same time. I don't think our brains are built to process that information that fast, and I think that is a very big contributing factor to why that is.
Do you personally, is there any way that you counteract that in your life?
So, sort of. So I made a decision a couple of years ago to turn all notifications off on my phone. And I know that lots of people are doing this and seeing the benefit of it. I also took my work emails off my phone. All the news apps have now come off my phone. I only get notifications for phone calls and WhatsApps. That is it. So I sort of have the power to choose not to engage or to engage. And my screen time is embarrassingly high. And I'll try and justify that by saying I use my phone for work. But actually, the root problem is that when you get into that sort of rot phase, the doom scrolling is just so easy. And you have to, again, choose to put it down and choose to do something else.
Do you know the average amount of time spent online by a UK adult per day?
Is it something disgraceful like 8 or 9 hours or something stupid?
It's not quite that much. It's 4.5 hours. And
well, yeah,
about
that's about
1.5 hours of those are spent on social media, which
that sounds about right.
I could have believed it would be higher, but remember that is an average. And,
an average, yeah.
And then when you break that down actually into parts of the day, you think about the amount of time you're spending working, and then you think about the amount of time you have outside of that work, and it is a large proportion of that spare time that you have. So
yeah.
You're absolutely right. But I love the idea of customizing your phone to be a healthier approach to your daily work and switch off notifications. Work emails is a big one. Because I have them on my phone, and I literally physically cannot restrain myself from looking at them.
No.
And so having those boundaries is vitally important. And is that something that you extend out to your team? Do you recommend that to others in your team? Because obviously you're a manager, and
my team,
sort of promote that within the team as well?
They don't have access to emails on their phone either. I've made sure that they don't, because if anyone should take the burden of what's going on as the manager, I've made that choice to be the manager. That should be me. It shouldn't be them. And I've chosen not to take that home with me either. So why should they? And I think that making sure that everyone has a healthy relationship and their work-life balance will mean that, they stay longer, because I don't want them to get burnt out and leave, because then I have to employ someone else. And that's a pain in the arse.
The very best reason to look after your team's mental health is that you don't have to recruit someone else.
Oh, I don't want to make new friends. I like the ones I have.
Well, Sarah, I think that there's so much more that I would like to discuss with you, but the clock is ticking, and time, as it happens to mostly do on most days of the week, is ticking away. So thank you for being a wonderful guest, and I hope you'll come back. And I'd like to wrap up with a couple of things that I ask everybody.
Okay.
Now, you can take this as literally or as metaphorically as you wish, but for you, Sarah Hood, where is your happy place?
At the end of the pier in Nevergissey in Cornwall, with either an ice cream or a scampi and chips in my hand, or both, actually.
Both. Absolutely.
you know, fighting off seagulls, defending my dinner, just having, every time I go there, I feel every element of stress or resentment or any unjoy leave my body the second I, you know, pay the parking fee to be there. It's
Yeah.
just, it is the
And
one
is
place I
that
go back.
typically the sea and the?
There's definitely something about the sea that as soon as you arrive, but that specific tiny fishing village in Cornwall, I will, I go every year, multiple times a year, for the very reason of my just heart belongs there, I think.
Yeah, we're recording this just after Easter weekend, and me and my family went away over Easter to Chesil Beach in Dorset.
Lovely.
And it's a pebbly, stony beach that goes on for 18 miles. Literally, it fades into the distance, and you can't see where it ends. And I sat there over the last couple of days, and there's this one particular sound, and I thought, oh, I'm going to bottle that. And it's the sound of the waves as they retract from the shore and go back out to sea, dragging the stones back out with it, and it creates this crackling, sort of slightly rumbling. It's basically the nautical equivalent of ASMR. It's very calming and relaxing, and that what you said just then took me to that place too. But that's a fantastic answer, and of course everything is better in Cornwall, isn't it? We all know that, and we're all very jealous of anyone who lives there. Except for you disagree, don't you, with the
well, I was about to say the cream
configuration.
and jam thing is it's a point of conflict between me and Cornwall. Cream goes first there, I've said it. Then you have a massive dollop of ideally raspberry jam on top, then you shove it in your face, and that also is deeply joyful.
Well, lastly, I'd like you to leave us with a note of encouragement. What would you say to somebody who is struggling to find joy in their life right now?
Okay, couple of things, two things actually. Firstly, start saying yes to things, and the more you say yes to things, the more opportunities that will present themselves to you. Just by saying yes to going for a walk, just by saying yes to going out with friends that you might otherwise not want to go out with, just saying yes to, actually also saying yes to not going to things is equally as important. Joe Bourne talks about JOMO, the joy of missing out. And I think that's equally as important to consider. Do you actually really want to go? And actually just having that conversation with yourself and saying yes to things. But then also, as a practical tip, really curating what is on your phone. So like, take all the news apps off, consider who you're friends with on Facebook and which groups you're in. Would you let them into your house? And if not, get them off your phone, because your phone is in your house. Curate what you're spending your time doing and say yes to things.
Sarah, thank you for taking us to your happy place. It's
My
been
pleasure.
a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Toby. This has been joyful.
Hooray! What a way to end.